welcome to The Acorn, the podcast that drops a little bit of psychoeducation so you can gain a better understanding of the therapy world and yourself. So without further ado, let's jump into our episode. Hello, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of The Acorn. Today I will be sharing 3 helpful back-to-school tips. So, summer is coming to a close and back to school is now upon us. We find ourselves running around trying to get us and our kids organized, and many of us tend to go into that first week of school feeling in some way, shape, or form overwhelmed and frustrated. Can I just normalize that for all of us parents and caregivers? Whether it's a big change in your kid's routine or a little change, here's the thing. Any kind of change usually brings with it some measure of apprehension. So, I encourage you to name it. Think about this saying by Dr. Dan Siegel, name it to tame it. So what does name it to tame it mean in this context? It means to pause and identify which part of the back-to-school transition feels most challenging for you and for your kids. It means to share the burden by allowing yourself to talk about it and co-regulate with a partner or friend. It means to normalize any feelings of anxiety or apprehension that your kids are experiencing. Ask them what parts are coming up for them. Do they have a worried part? Could that part be concerned about making new friends? Are they noticing a perfectionistic part? Is that part feeling a little bit pressured to do everything right? Be curious and compassionate about whatever your kids share. And if you need a better understanding about parts work, check out my blog post on internal family systems. That's from Season 1, Episode 13. And I'll be sure to link it in the blog too. So with all of this in mind, 3 helpful back-to-school tips include, number 1, get into a helpful routine. Co-create a plan with your kids for when they're going to do homework, unplug from their devices, and go to bed on weeknights. Then encourage and celebrate them as they practice these healthy routines. Number 2, talk about safety. The roads around school zones can be an absolute zoo. So remind your kids to look both ways before crossing, catch the eye of motorists when crossing the street, and cross at the lights and the crosswalks. And also, walk their bikes across the street. For older teens, remind them about being responsible when driving and or being a passenger in a friend's car. Number 3, tell them about compassion and growth. Remind your kids to offer themselves and others compassion. Talk to them about what they're feeling grateful for. Tell them it's important to ask for help. And remind them that you're excited to watch their overall growth over the upcoming school year. As summer comes to an end and our kids head back to school, remember, you and your kids are on the same team. So talk about the transition, check in with them often, and be prepared to pivot if something is not working. Now, as we end this episode, remember to take a moment in your day to pause, breathe, hope, and heal. Take care. Well, this has been another episode of The Acorn. Remember, the content in these podcast episodes are for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. Disclaimer. Anything said in this podcast should not be considered as treatment, professional consultation, advice, clinical instruction or assessment, or any other mental health replacement. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapist-client relationship between you and the podcast host. Always seek the advice of your own mental health provider regarding any questions or concerns you may have about your mental health needs. Also, if you need immediate help, contact your mental health provider or call 911. Take care.